Yeah, dinosaurs now. We are live, 6:30, 7-ish, so somewhere around there. Today we're going to talk about the video that I just put up, and that is the 4.8 liter turbo. And I want to hear the apples and oranges stories that everybody's going to have. But basically, the gist of this thing, our learning experience, our takeaway from this was that if you use a big camshaft in your turbo LS, particularly in a 4.8, because that one's the most susceptible to this, that you will definitely hurt low speed power. And the thing is, we often talk about, the naturally aspirated combination and then boost being a multiplier of this. Unfortunately, this goes both ways. So if we're doing well and we have a powerful naturally aspirated motor and we multiply that, obviously good things happen, better than if it wasn't making that much power. But the flip side of that is bad things go the other way. So if we have a camshaft that's traditionally soft down low in our NA combination, because that's how I look at every camshaft. I look at every boosted camshaft as an NA camshaft. And what does it do NA? Then I can tell you what it's going to do under boost. So if we take a typical turbo camshaft, in this video, I use a BTR stage 2 camshaft, and which is very popular, maybe their most popular one, although the Truck Norris now might be the go-to camshaft. I'm thinking it should be. But their stage 2 camshaft, I think, was their biggest turbo seller. I'm guessing. I haven't heard any information, but I think that was the case. But the thing is, on a 4.8 liter, even though that's a turbo cam, it's a 226 cam. A 226, like the 228 sloppy stage 2, is a big camshaft for that motor. That's how I decide the bigness of the cam. It's the intake duration. I know cam guys, but it's all valve events and this thing's happening and this thing's happening and this is the opening and this is a closing. All that's great. Trust me. The way that I'm doing it, the way that I'm labeling these, and how I understand these works very well, very well. I can tell you what's going to happen. So a 226 cam is a pretty good size camshaft, especially for a 4.8. Less so for a 5.3, and obviously less so for a 6.0. But on a 4.8, it's a big camshaft. And so when we look at a big camshaft like this, what happens? Well, they lose power down low. So on a turbo combination, it gets even worse, because if you have a combination that makes power down low, it has that. So the comparison that I did basically is kind of the torque cam and the stage 2 cam, the stage 2 turbo cam. You could also look at a Truck Norris or others, but if the cam itself makes more power down low, which we see from milder camshafts, if it makes more power, that more power that it makes gets multiplied. So it leaves the other one way behind because remember, we're multiplying this out. So if it's 30 foot-pounds better under boost, it might be 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or whatever, and depending on how much boost you're running. And so the difference down low can get even more dramatic from boost response if you don't have that. And from being behind the wheel, when you step on the throttle and nothing happens, the thing that NA guys complain about on turbo combinations, although they have NA combinations that never come in boost, but that's another live feed adventure. But that's the problem, is that you step on the gas and then it doesn't go. And then that's boost response. And a smaller camshaft has much better boost response. Even in the video that I did, even when it was saddled with probably an oversized turbo, although not dramatically so, but oversized, and certainly the wrong intake manifold, because it was a high ram on a 4.8. On a street 4.8 we ran to 6,500 is a terrible idea. There's no benefit there. There's maybe at 6,500 it squeaks better than a truck manifold. It would not be better than a fast, but the long runner manifold certainly better down low. If you're going to put together a combination, especially something that made 700-ish horsepower, we would go with a lot of different changes. We would go with the torque cam worked fairly well. I wouldn't mind just staying with that. So you could go on a 4.8, that torque cam worked okay. Also a Truck Norris cam, a little bit bigger, so probably a little bit softer down low. But a small camshaft, we have the 706 heads, those kind of stayed in place. But get rid of the high ram, put a long runner, put a factory truck intake manifold. Now, it's hard to go wrong with a truck manifold on a 4.8. Stay with that, and then I'd go with a smaller turbo. I wouldn't go with a turbo that's a 1,000+ horsepower one. I'd go I'd do one that's under 1,000 horsepower so that we could get better response, unless I was trying to go to 1,000 horsepower. The other thing that happens, and the reason that the 4.8 test even came into being, is the fact that I wanted to demonstrate what happens when you do the wrong thing. This was the wrong combination. A torque cam and a high ram, not a good combination. But what you can do is use a mild cam with a turbo and use a short runner intake manifold like we did with the high ram. And that way you can make more RPM. So let's say you want to do, when you're driving this thing around, you want to drive nice and idle nice and have good boost response, but you also want to run to 7,000 or 7,500 RPM, which is possible with a short stroke 4.8. It's even more possible with a short runner manifold, and it's even more possible if you have a rising boost curve. If you can create those things, if you have a boost controller that can be referenced with RPM, and you can have a rising boost curve, then you can kind of create your desired power curve. You can either have it be flat from 6,000 out to 7,000 or 7,500, or if you add boost to this thing, you can have it rise slightly because the boost will tend to do that, just like with a centrifugal supercharger. You can have all that happen. So you could put the short runner manifold and the low RPM camshaft and have all of those things. It's not going to be ideal because it's not going to be quite as strong down low with that short runner manifold. It's not going to be quite as strong on top with that milder cam. But we have a turbo. If you want to make 700 horsepower, you're going to make 700 horsepower because the turbo will do that. If you want to make 8 or 9 or 1,000, you can do that as long as you select the turbo that can support that, and you can make that happen. So you can adjust these things. And the other thing I wanted to do is show you that even if you do it wrong, like we did with we erred on the side of mild on the camshaft and wild on the intake manifold on the 4.8 and put an S480 on it, although it was a T4 S480. Even doing that, it still worked. It still made boost. It made good power. It would be a great turbo motor to drive around in if you wanted a 500, 600, 700 horsepower thing. And like I said, you use a smaller turbo if you wanted to do that. But if you wanted to go all the way to 1,000 or maybe more than that, the S480 would definitely do that. And so you can even miss by a bit and have that happen. But it is better when you do all of the things that are going to make the combination do the things that you want it to do. And that's very important. And that's why I get in this conversation with guys about camshafts. They're like, yeah, you need to go have a custom cam done. You need to go to the Joe Schmo's house of custom cams. I'm like, no, you do not need to do that. There is no one camshaft that's better than everything else. There's no one camshaft that makes as much power as a low speed cam, makes as much power as the mid range cam, makes as much power as the high RPM cam, makes as much power as all of those do, and is the least expensive and idles the best and has piston to valve clearance. And that sort of thing doesn't work. Although guys that are touting custom cams or their custom cam guy, they're kind of saying that that's possible, and it's not. That's not a reality. The reason that's not a reality is because everybody's interpretation of what that cam would be. Like in this case, I ran a torque cam. That's not, it's not anybody's idea of an ideal cam. It's not even mine, but it worked just fine. But it could be somebody's. So the idea of the best cam or the ideal cam is wholly subjective. One, like mine, I have a stock cam in mine and I love it. It works fine. It does everything that I wanted to do. It's perfect in every way. Other people want chop. Some people want fuel mileage. Some people want some weird combination of both. Some of them want the most peak power that I can get or the most peak torque or whatever their thing is. They want that. And no amount of this other kind of thing is going to dissuade them. Some guys want what kind of thing can I have that's a cam and it's the least expensive thing. I need power and I need it for $100 or $200 or whatever the number is. I need that, and that's their ideal cam. So this perpetuated nonsense about the custom cam thing is not in any way, shape, or form accurate. So, but we do need a poll though. Okay, is low speed boost response more important than top end power? So are you, I'm the bigger cam guy, so I can make more horsepower per psi. That one, or are you? Look, when I'm driving around, I want the thing to be responsive because it's going to be fun all the time. Which guy are you? So the poll will kind of give us an answer there. Is low speed boost response more important than top end power? Power, big power. So let's go back up. Good night. You're leaving already? You just got here. Lots of information coming from Matt's live with Devin. What is he talking to Devin about? How about a B16 turbo GSR cams or spend the extra on Crowder? I have B series stuff up. A B16 turbo, you can make a lot more power with other cams. And aftermarket cams are better than a GSR cam or a Type R cam, which is better than a GSR cam, or a Civic Type R cam, which aftermarket cams are better than that. What camshaft do you recommend for 6.0 LS, 6.2 Denali, BorgWarner? I'm not understanding your question. You got to tell me what you're trying to do. First of all, I don't know. Is your engine a 6-liter or a 6.2? Is it turbocharged or not? What else is on it? And what are you trying to do with it? Are you trying to drag race it? Are you trying to street drive it? Is this a low boost thing? And then if it is going to be turbocharged, tell me how much power you want to make. Big bang for it with a stock cam. No, that's not really what a big bang is. I love all the data you provide. I have an 0248. That's an early one. 4.8 liter works pretty well. I mean, it does what they do. It just does what all the others do too. It's just smaller. What's a great cam on a 505 big block? Magnum heads 10 to 8, 10.8 to 1. You want AC. So do you want the thing to idle? Like what kind of idle vacuum do you want? Exhaust system on a boosted engine when not under boost is generally restrictive compared to an NA exhaust. So we're talking about the exhaust after the turbo or the exhaust before the turbo. And why would the exhaust be restrictive when not under boost? It would be more restrictive under boost because you're asking it to flow more air. I didn't know how much a camshaft can affect boost response. Yeah, you don't even have to think about boost response. All you have to think about is low speed torque. Is there, and this isn't just can we change it versus a stock cam? Can we change it versus a bigger cam? And yes, so whichever camshaft has, I didn't do this NA, which I should have. I need to go back and look. I think I have those NA comparisons. In fact, I'm sure I do. In fact, I might look them up and show them to you guys on the live feed. If we look at the NA combinations, I don't remember now, but I'm sure that the torque cam has more low speed power than the stage 2 turbo cam does, because it would have to. Otherwise, we wouldn't have more boost response. So now that I've said that, I can go take a look. Take a look. Bear. I'm still trying to find it here. Where's the BTR cam at? So I think I found it. I think I did. Let's see. Yes, we do. We see let me see how much that is. Let's spread that out. Yes, down at 3,000, we are seeing. So let me see which one is which one here. Okay. At 3,000 RPM, 284 versus 335. So we're seeing like 45 or 50 foot-pounds at 3,000 RPM difference in torque between the Stage 2 turbo and the torque cam, which explains exactly why it did what it did. It's much softer down low. And that's a turbo cam. Running a large turbo hot side allows for minimal restriction while not under boost. I don't understand why you guys are talking about when there's when you're not under boost, you're not asking the motor to flow very much. It could have a really tiny exhaust system when you're running down the road and your motor is only making 30 foot-pounds of torque. Can we take a moment to appreciate how awesome the Cyclone and Typhoon, I think, is what you're thinking about, the 4.3 turbo deal and the Grand National and the GNX? Overkill your fuel system, you'll grow into it. Yep. For a driver, I prefer torque cam with a little chop, like a Truck Norris or the Chopacabra or whatever. Richard, do you know if a 6.4 exhaust manifold fit on a Gen 3 pre-Eagle head? I don't know if the headers are the same for the early and late motors. I'm not sure if they have a common exhaust flange like bolt pattern. Yeah, Anthony, I don't have a 6.4 and don't have 6.4 Hemi kind of money to blow one of those up. RV cam. Yeah, RV cams make good turbo cams, actually. Why all the custom cam hate? I don't. I like custom cams. It's just that the way that people promote and try to sell custom cams, I don't think is accurate. What's your opinion on nitrous cams? I think for most people that are running nitrous cams, you can just run whatever cam you want. Nitrous, like boost, adds how much ever nitrous you're adding to the motor, it's going to add that much power to the motor. The camshaft that you pick until you get way high up in the amount of nitrous you're adding, but for a street 4.8, 5.3, 6.0, 6.2, whatever, even one that you take to the strip, if you're not trying to like maximize the amount of nitrous that you're adding to it, whatever cam makes the most NA power, you're just going to add, like, let's say you're adding a 200 shot. So you want the camshaft that makes the most NA power. And then you're going to add 200 on top of that, because wherever you're starting, plus 200 gets you to the highest number. And that's how it works. Guys that are thinking, again, that you need a custom cam, especially in this, for 90% of us, you don't need a custom cam for nitrous. For people that are trying to run, a 500 shot on a 500 horsepower motor, you might have a camshaft that can help you do that. But if you're running a 200 shot on a junkyard 5.3, you don't need a custom nitrous cam. You just need a cam. We're talking about anything and everything. That's usually what happens when you get on. Like, I've been on with Matt before, and that's what happens. We just end up talking about lots of stuff. Cameron's cool too. I got to meet him at one of the LS Fests. You're the top end kind of guy. You can't really plan 1,000 horsepower with a semi-stock suspension. Yeah, that's true. If you need to run out more RPM and RPM is better for you at the drag strip, then that all works. That's what I said. That's wholly subjective. That's why the thing is, I'm not going to tell you that your cam isn't the best cam for you. It's like telling somebody that their religion isn't the right religion for them. That's just nonsense. Everybody has their own particular thing, and it works well for you, and that's what I support. I support the choice that you make for your stuff, and it's going to be the right one. And if I can help steer you in the direction for that, that's fine. I'm not trying to make you do one particular cam or the other. I'm just telling you there's a lot of good choices out there. About doing a Y block, they have exhaust manifolds for a twin turbo from the factory. I think all the factory manifolds are like that, right? I don't think the guys at West Tech have run a couple of those. I think not turbo ones, but I think they have run Y blocks. I've never run one. I don't think I've ever even seen one disassembled. I think a 5.3 with a 210 cam and a 76 millimeter turbo is what I'll do in my camper van. That'll work. Let's see. Let's see. Could we get you looking up cam idle videos? That's a big consideration. So you care about what the idle quality is? So you're going to want a milder cam then, right? Or do you want the chop? I don't understand which direction you go. Currently running a Summit Pro LS Turbo Stage 4 cam on my 370. Ollie High Ram LS3 88 T6. So then you're more interested in the top part of the RPM range for that camshaft. Stock 543 valve with an Edelbrock supercharger. If you know by chance, would it make decent power? Yes, it will make decent power. You'll be limited somewhat. I mean, because the stock 543 valve is not a terribly powerful combination. I mean, you could port the heads and put cams in it if you wanted more, but the blower will help a lot. Somebody asking about putting LS3 heads. LS3 heads on a 5.3 or a 4.8 won't fit. They'll hit the edge. They don't have enough bore size. Currently building a 408 twin 78s on a 72 C10. Have a stage 5 semi-turbo paired with Brodix BR3 heads. So are you that sounds like a drag race kind of thing. I'll send you a 6.4, but I need it back. Nope, hard pass on that. I'm not borrowing stuff from people anymore. Those situations have all turned out to be kind of nightmarish. Yeah, hot mess. The bolt pattern is the thing I'm wondering about. I don't think that they would have changed the port spacing. I don't think they've changed the shape, but I don't know if they changed the bolt pattern on the Hemi. Is there a newer Hemi engine worth avoiding? I don't know. Didn't they, when they started in 03 or 04, something like that? I don't have a date yet for the marathon. We're still working on that. In fact, I'm going to be working on that tonight. Richard, for my 408 Ford Stroker with 12 to 1, am I still going to be able to run 93 pump gas? What camshaft do you have in it? On what cylinder head do you have on it? And what do you have cold air going to the motor? And what temperature are you running? And so there's a lot of things. What do you think the largest camshaft you could run on a 4853 without valve overlap? Why do you not want overlap? You're saying that you want big power. You're going to do that with overlap. Overlap is your friend if you want to make power. Getting timing right is a huge deal for turbo spool up. I'm at 11 and a quarter on my LSA supercharged 390 and have to use boosting on my 91 to make it into 97, 98. So do you think that that stuff really changes it by 6 or 7 octane points? Can you chamfer the bores for valve clearance? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to put LS3 heads on a 4.8 or a 5.3, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to notch the bores like they do on the 396. Richard, you have each there at West Tech you can check. I'm not at West Tech, so I can't check anything. 5.7, 234, 242. That's a big cam. AFR heads, fast 102, long tubes, 300 shot. What kind of power up maker should I do a small turbo? You can always make more power with a turbo than you can with nitrous. On a 5.7, that's a big enough camshaft. Those are good heads. It's a good intake manifold. I don't know. On a 300 shot, I'm thinking that you're more than 800 probably. I'll say as people pass up low-hanging fruit, oil pan can gain you 5 to 10 horsepower. Yeah, I did some oil pan videos. Timing and reversion chambers can gain results. People leave horsepower on the table all the time. That's why we're all here. Everybody's here to help learn from each other. What ECU do most guys use here once they've turboed their engines? But you guys can all answer that. I use Holley on the engine dyno. Oh, I mean right now, I meant the next time. The only Hemi that I think that they have there, well, they have 2 of them. They have one older Hemi, an older 426 Hemi, and then they have a late model 5.7 VVT dual runner intake one there. But I don't think that there are any earlier Hemis there that I remember, unless a customer would have one there. I've heard good things about Holley Terminator for turbo ECUs. All of the ECUs will work and give you the right air, fuel, and timing, and if you're doing that, they'll make the same power. Where ECUs really come into play is if you want other things, if you want programming for the transmission, maybe you want boost by gear, maybe, it depends on how much data logging you want, all those other things. But almost all of them will give you, hey, I want, click, 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 click. I want this much timing, click, 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 click. I want this much fuel. I have this size injector. I have this size motor, all that. Almost all of them do that. That's pretty normal. Richard, don't they keep the manifolds around for use on the dyno? But I don't know that they run Hemis so rarely that I don't know that they would have, if they have manifolds, I don't know that they would have some labeled for different things. I have some Hemi Edelbrock heads and Edelbrock intake manifold. I'm assuming that those are the same as the early ones. I'll have to take a look at that. Maybe if we looked up headers, it would tell you what years the headers go to. Maybe there's a difference if somebody would look that up and see if there's a different, I'm sure that there might be different part numbers, but successful turbo Buick guys had great concepts, always combination specific. We're running a vacuum pump on engine affect oil pressure. You'd think it might, right? Because it's drawing before the oil pump. I don't know. I'm gonna have to, I haven't tested it, so I'd like to ask Roulet maybe to see if he's got some data on the vacuum pump testing that they've done to see if that does change it. Another guy's old school 426 Hemi. A 440. Yeah, I tried to do the 440. I just borrowed that from Freiberger, and they have a 426 Hemi that has a blower on it, and it's pretty cool because it's actually a who's the I'm trying to think who the Hemi guy was. This was a it was a NASCAR block because it was all shaved and stuff. How many engines do I own? I don't know. I'd have to go count them, but I'm sure it's 20 or more right now. When advancing retarding and cam a few degrees on the dyno, do you increase or decrease the total timing also? If it does, then we put the timing back to where it was because we want to do one thing, and then we would go through a procedure to either advance it or retard it to see if it changes anything. The T76 twin turbo capable of 1200 horsepower. Which T76s are you asking about? Are you talking about the CX Racing stuff? We've done 1200 with two of the 76 CX Racing turbos on a 5.3. I don't know about the hot side flow for a 6.0. I think I might do something bigger than that, but there's lots of bigger turbos. Two GT45s would do that easily. In fact, it would do 1400. How strongly do you recommend a wideband? I cannot recommend it strongly enough. Every tuning session should have one. Got an ad midstream. I think I saw a space bar or something going across there. Richard, those Edelbrock heads, are those Gen 3 pre or post Eagle? I don't know. I don't know that. I didn't know that Edelbrock had a different setup. PTE Next Gen Sportsman 7685 will do 1500 per their latest Instagram post. Yeah, I think he was talking about the inexpensive 76 millimeter CX Racing turbos. But yeah, real 76 millimeters are a different thing. Ford 4 Stoker has a Victor Jr. 210 heads comp single pattern Holly Sniper. I'm hoping it still run on. What is the Jay? Tell me what the duration is on that 427 cam. Tell me what the 50 numbers are. Can you run E85 from a steel tank? We have E85 in steel drums, if that counts. A cool test would be rotating assembly balance versus unbalanced. Like, how out of balance do you want to run it? Because if it's too bad, it will hurt the dyno. We've put motors on either where the customer didn't know or maybe I wasn't paying attention, where we put the wrong flywheel on stuff and it's immediately evident and you can't run the motor like that. I remember doing that put a flywheel on my World Challenge car and trying to run it. You can't even see out the window. It vibrated so bad. I'm wondering why cam upgrade on a 6.4 doesn't respond as good as a 6.2 LS. On a 6.4 Hemi, it does. A 5.0 Coyote is because it has variable cam and it's an overhead cam motor, and those already have pretty good cams in them. I'm having a hot start issue. Turns over hard. Is there any tuning tips? If it's hard to turn over, it probably has too much timing in it. Just out of the box unbalanced. So like 3 grams, 5 grams, 10. Richard, are any of your Holly tune files available online? No, I don't. I'm not a tuner, so my files would normally only have wide open throttle done to them. Duration at 50 is 242, 248. Okay, so at least that's a big enough cam. You might get away with that on pump gas. I mean, and if it gets bad, you're just going to have to pull timing out of it. Do you think a small turbo would work well with stock 5.3 and a 6L80 Silverado? Yes, it would work good. Somebody might help Jack and let him know what might be necessary on a 6L80 for use with a, he says small turbo. Oh, okay, hot mess. I understand what you're saying now. You're talking about the difference in chamber volumes between the different heads. I thought you were talking specifically about Edelbrock heads and that they made different kinds of castings. So my Gen 3 6-liter twin 7875s is going to run trick flow Gen X heads. Those are good. They should have enough deck thickness. Should have enough deck. That's the thing. I don't know, unless are you trying to max out those 7875s? Yeah, if it's 3 to 5 grams, I honestly doubt you'd see any measurable power change. And we could do that without having to disassemble a motor and change the rotating assembly. We could do 3 or 5 grams with a weight on the flywheel or something on the damper. In fact, I'll bet if we were to balance some of the things that we're running that they're going to be that far out. Jack. Oh, you want to keep the stock converter? Yeah, the having the stock camshaft, it will go a long way to that. You might see that if the thing spools up with the stock cam on the stock motor, that your stall speed will go up because it's going to be a function of power too. But what kind of spool time? I don't have a way to quantify that. A Summit Stage 2 cam and a 7875 on a 4.8 is not going to be terribly responsive. Yeah, Dirt. I don't think 3 to 5 grams is. I don't think you'd see any power change. Yeah, Scott's saying under 10 grams is probably going to be no change at all. I think it has to be a lot. And if it is a lot, like I said, you can feel the imbalance when the thing's running, because none of these are soft mounted. None of them have rubber in the mounts or anything. They're all hard mounted. So if there's vibration, you can see it. Not a fair question. That's an application-based question. Or you could just come here and answer it and have fun. That's what the poll questions are. They're not absolutes. There's no right or wrong. It's just good fun. Just close your eyes, throw a dart, pick one, whatever, or not. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Just a poll. Just the facts, man. And I like the idea of the turbo on a stock motor. I like those. I think that works really good. It's like all of the power and none of the problems. You got your Jay, you got your questions answered. I try to answer all the questions there. Have you ever dynoed an On3 ST1 turbo cam? No, I haven't. I don't think I've dynoed any On3 stuff because don't they make turbo kits and stuff too? I don't think I've ever dynoed any of their stuff. I have a question. Is there a difference between which bank you put the cylinder head on an LS3? Only in that some of them have the rear crossover plugged. And so if you, I mean, they'll physically bolt on to either side. That's not a problem. But, and I've gone through this before, so that's how I know that if you change the head around and now the front's blocked and you don't want the front blocked and you don't want the rear crossover to be the only one that's open, then you have to change that. A lot of the heads, especially the early ones, didn't have it blocked didn't have that crossover blocked by the factory. And so it didn't make any difference, but in that particular instance, it does. Is an S475 better for low end response than 7875? The answer, as always, is it depends. It depends exactly which S47875 you're talking about, which S475 you're talking about. They have T6 versions. We ran T4 versions. There's a bunch of different hot sides available for them. There's a bunch of different wheel sizes and stuff. Currently on sale, so I'm looking for. Yeah, Brandon, just if you can look at the specs and tell me what the specs are, I can tell you. I mean, I can tell you right now, even without looking at the specs, it's going to work. How well it works versus other stuff is a different thing. Getaway, what's up? I have a 4.8 board 10 over. That's like the one, I think we went about 10 when I put those pistons in the one that we did all the testing with. It has 243 heads that are stock springs. 1.8 ratio. You have roller rockers on or something? So Matthew, you got to tell me, did you add rockers to this thing? So how did you get to the 1.8 ratio? If you did all that, it would be 582 lift. If you have a 550 lift cam with 1.7 rockers and you put 1.8 rockers on it, it would be 582. All you have to do is take that 550 number, divide by 1.7, and then multiply by 1.8. In the dirt world, they spend a lot of time and effort and money on being balanced. Your thought was that 8,000 RPM harmonics could hurt horsepower. Well, if you're running 8,000 RPM on the dirt, you want things to be right. And balancing should be, I mean, I'm talking about some of these motors that came from the wrecking yard, or some of them like this 1969 Pontiac 350. I don't know how well balanced that is. I don't know how well balanced it is with the flywheel that we put on it that should be neutral. I think it's probably neutral. I don't know how whether the dampers slipped on this thing. There's a lot of things that are going to go on that you wouldn't put up with in any kind of race motor. What injector size should I use on a centrifugal cammed LS3? You should use the injector size that will support the power output that you're trying to make with that motor. So 80s are usually a good choice if it's under 1,000 horsepower. Is there a boost limit before you should add ring gap? No, if you're running boost, you should add ring gap. Richard, you should dyno a big cam in an LS 6.2, something like a 240-250 or a 250-260. With stock heads, and you can't do that with a stock piston, so you have to have a piston that has valve reliefs. So it's a little bit of work just to find out what a big cam does. Elgin makes rockers. I didn't realize that. Temperature sensor plug, you're talking about, right? Okay. No, I'm not talking about the temperature sensor plug. Both of them will have that. One of them has a plug in it. The other one has the coolant temp sensor, but those are interchangeable when you flip the head around. Those will be in the same spot. I'm talking about the water crossover right in front of the intake manifold that goes from one head over to the other, and then also in the back. Yeah, if you have 1.8 rockers, you need to have springs that are set up for at least 582 lifts. So 600 lift. So 600 springs would work. VS Racing 7875. I'm hoping it's a Gen 2. Yeah, an LS2 10.5 to 1 sloppy stage 2 upgrade springs. Yeah, 700 or 800 horsepower. That's right in that wheel. That's right in that turbo's wheelhouse. Travis, how high are you trying to push that thing on your 6766? I think it would be responsive on the combination you're talking about. I don't know how far back it is on your remote, but it should work with that tight of an AR on the. It should be fairly responsive, as much as you can do, depending on how far back you're putting it. I don't know about the 850 crank, and if Iron says it will do that, it probably will do that. But I don't know what the back pressure is going to be like because I haven't tested that specific turbo. Would a sloppy stage 2 cam work on an LSA supercharged 408 stroker? Yes, it will. It wouldn't be the camshaft that I would pick for that, but it will go in and go up and down and make boost. It will that camshaft will make more power than a factory LSA camshaft or an LS9 camshaft, but not as much power as other better camshafts. How many miles have you seen on a well-built 408 or 383? I don't know. I don't have mileage data from the dyno, and I haven't run one. I only have my 5.3. When are you going to do a 6.2 Big Bang? I'm not going to. That's not on the list. I don't normally take those LS1, LS2, and LS3 aluminum blocks more than 1,000 horsepower. The only one I do that to are the aluminum 5.3s. Six-liter iron bore and stroke for 6-liter. Yeah, I wouldn't do a big bang like that either because the bore size, I think, is, in my opinion, is too big. And you've made the block weaker. With all his knowledge, you need to publish a book. I have. I've written 10 of them. In fact, I just got a check today for my books for some of them. Balance changes with RPM. That's right, Bob. You're balancing reciprocating weight with rotating weight. You're trying to cure one thing with the other thing. And you're right. You can only do it at the RPM that you're testing it at. So you only know if that's good. Yeah, no big bang on a 6.2 on an LS3. We've done 1,000+ horsepower stuff on 6.2s, but I'm not going to try to take one to 1,500. Blueprint power outer 540. If you did one big turbo, what size do you think would you look at? Well, how much power are you trying to make? Are you trying to make 2,000? Then I would pick a 2,000 horsepower turbo, single turbo. I don't know that I've ever looked at that kind of turbo to see what that would be. But 104 would be a lot. Would more cam duration on the intake achieve the same thing as the increase in lift? No. they would do different things, and you can't individualize those because they work in harmony. Is there good money in book writing? No, there's not. I find your books on Amazon. Yes, they are available there. Yeah, I've done a few LS books, a few Honda books, a Focus book, a 5-liter. 5-liter Ford was the first one that I did. Modular Ford, a short track power thing for Ford that I just helped them complete that somebody else had started and then it fell out. A sport compact or a B segment book is what they call it, sport compact cars that never got published, but I wrote it and got paid for it. How about a Big Bang 460 Ford? I don't know that I have the desire for a Big Bang on a 460. Do you have any experience with total seal piston rings? I've used them a lot, but not if you're talking about gapless rings. I've only used those once or twice. You only deal with LS or old school small block Chevy as well? Is that question for me, Carl? If that question is for me, you haven't looked at the channel. That tells me because I test everything. And the list of books that I just rattled off should tell you Ford Focus and Honda and all kinds of stuff. I set records. Work with programs from the OEM, from Volkswagen and Hyundai, and lots of people. Is there a way we can work a drinking game into these? We will be able to do that on the 24-hour. Did I mention that the 24-hour marathon is going to be a cash days? It will be. Appreciate all the videos and live streams. Thank you guys for being here. If you were to choose a cam for a centrifugal supercharged 6.2, considering drivability first, good low speed torque, top end power third. I definitely would look at the new cams that Brian Tooley just came out with. They just came out with some new ones. In fact, both the hot rod cam and the red hot cam were actually designed for the 6.2. I think I would look seriously at the hot rod cam. Take a shot every time you hear turbo. That'd be good. No, that's good, Carl. We want you here. But no, the answer to your question is I test everything. And I'm not a Ford guy. I'm not a Chevy guy. I'm not a Honda guy. I like all of them. I'm kind of a Chevy Sprint turbo guy. It's an ideal location for wastegate placement on a single 7875 on a 4.8, trying to get the best boost response possible. And you think that the wastegate position is going to give you boost response? The wastegate position is going to give you wastegate response. It's going to make the wastegate more effective. What I do is, if you take a look at the videos I have, in fact, you take a look at the video today, when we built the Y pipe, the exhaust flows out of the exhaust manifolds into the Y pipe. And the first thing it hits, like the exhaust is flowing this way to the Y pipe, the first thing it hits is the wastegate opening. Because the wastegate opening is right in line with the exhaust flow. That's the best way to do it. And then the exhaust turns and comes up to the turbo. That's optimum wastegate position. If you look at all the race cars, and I don't mean drag race cars, although those probably have it too, but look at like professional levels of racing. Look at Formula One. Look at IndyCar and that kind of stuff, and you can see that's where the wastegate needs to be positioned. It can be positioned other places if you're trying to work around a maximum boost rule. That can whistle the turbo and whistle the wastegate stuff. So all of that's kind of cool, but that's what I would do. I took a Ford 60 and sent it to the moon. You get a 1 million views. Yeah, it should be fairly obvious from this channel that I'm not doing it for 1 million views kind of thing. I wouldn't have a nightly discussion with 75 or 100 people if that's what I was trying to do. I would just light myself on fire or have girls, in all of my thumbnails and all that. That's just not that's not what I'm doing. Gapless rings are what I'm interested in. I did run their gapless rings on my Engine Masters motor, but I didn't test them against something else. Scott, you're reading Billy's book? I've heard it's good. I should ask Billy to send me a copy of that. I haven't done an Iron Duke yet, no, but that is on the list, as is a 300 inline Ford. Any shops here in the Bay Area that are tuned and dyno? I don't know. I haven't done any of that up here. So any bucket list engines that you want to test? Yes, there's lots of them. Yeah, I'm gonna do Mark's Racing Engine. So shout out to Mark's Racing Engines. I'm gonna do a 24-hour live feed like this, a 24-hour marathon. So it won't be 24 hours straight. It will be, but it'll be 1 hour and then 1 hour and then 1 hour, and then with a short break in between, probably 5 minutes or something like that. But we'll keep going. And then, so for each one of them, we're going to have things that we're doing. And Chad Reynolds, I think, is going to come out and be part of this, which will be fun. I'm looking at adding LHU performance cams to my IDK 2-liter turbo. Not an expert on cams, though. Richard, how about take your favorite engine and test it on 93 versus nitromethane? I am going to do a nitromethane test. That's coming. Looking for 500 to 600 horsepower at the wheels with a 67, 66 turbo. That should be doable. Always been a Ford guy, but I can definitely see when something works and works good and it's simple like the LS. Yeah, there's no denying that it is effective. I mean, it's the biggest thing out there still right now. Did you see that listing for the Sprint Turbo in Texas? I didn't see it. It's almost a 2.3 liter big bang time. I have the guys at the car farm have a 2.3 liter that I'm trying to get back here. Maybe we tearing down and rebuilding a 300 Ford tomorrow. Nice. I want the later fuel injected one. Iron Duke uses a steel timing gear and a good damper. I just want to, and Mark still has that Cadillac North Star motor. I'd like to just run both of those on the dyno and just put boost on them. Just put injectors in them and put boost. Or even now after, and it's been so long since I've tried one, but when we did the Kenny Bell supercharger on the 5 liter, which was awesome, then takes me back to where all this stuff kind of started. But I was surprised at how well the FMU worked. It's been a long time since I ran one of those. I'm like, oh, this is going to be awful. I thought it's going to have a really big, like a big dip way down rich and then come back up. And we did see where the pump wasn't able to keep up. So if it had enough fuel pump, we might have seen a little bit more of that. But because this thing wasn't able to keep up with the desired fuel pressure that the FMU was requesting, we had a really good curve. I was amazed. So I might just do that on the dyno with like the North Star and the Iron Duke. Do you know a lot of guys who run on corn? Are you talking about E85? Did you see Weingartner's LS Pro Max head video from yesterday? I didn't. I haven't looked at it. I've run some of the Pro Max stuff. I've liked it. 7,200 for the Sprint. Yeah, no, that's going to be a hard pass on that. I don't like them that much. My first car was a 70 Mustang. Mine was a 70 and a half Camaro, because if you're a Camaro guy, you have to throw the half in there. But I like the 70. I like the 69 and 70 Mustangs. You think a 46 millimeter precision wastegate would be able to control boost on the rear mount? I don't think so. I don't think on a 6-liter on that small of a turbo. I think I would try to go with a bigger turbo. Everybody loves Billy Godbold. I've never heard anyone who dislikes him. Have you done much with rotary motors? Not on the engine dyno. I've done some stuff on the chassis dyno, but I would like to run one on the engine dyno. Just had a commercial in the middle of your live stream. No, it doesn't always happen. Pro Max, the video is good. I think the middle heat with a chamber opened. If 6-liter would be a good, I don't know. I don't understand it. Oh, I'm at the bottom, so we can go from top chat to live chat. We can go live. It's all the way live. I'm really excited about the little AMR 500 too. I can't wait till it gets here. First engine I rebuilt was a 69 Nova, straight 6250. First one I did was the 350. It was a base 350 in my Camaro. Dyno tune shops here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I just don't know any in the Bay Area. Richard, what horsepower will a 462 valve or 3 valve with a stock bottom end generally survive at? I don't know what that number is. We've run lots of stuff at 650, I think, and maybe a little more on the 3 valve, but I don't know how long they last there. You have to notch the bottom of the cylinders on an LS408? Yes, you might. You're Aaron, so you're reading about the Thunderbird Super Coupe testing? Yeah, the guy that owned that car kind of threw a couple of wrenches into that whole testing procedure. Have you watched the video? I meant the middle head. Okay, I haven't watched the video, so and I didn't understand which thing you were pointing at, but middle head makes sense. Yeah, I thought we did a couple of parts on that turbo coupe. I thought we did exhaust and did some inlet or blower upgrades or something. Richard, how's the heat wave? It was high 90s, I think, today. I still went and ran, but I ran over to my mom's house and dunked my head in the pool, and then sure her pool needed cleaning, so I did some pool maintenance while I was there. Four six will handle power, good ring gap on boost. I think it will too. I would really like to do a big bang on a 4.62 valve. I think that should be on the list. So would I put the wastegate closer to the turbo or to the engine? So let's see. The exhaust is going to be coming out of the motor, going into the exhaust, going in the tube, going up to the turbo. I think I would put it closer to the turbo. Eric tested 3 heads, a big and small rec port. What is a small rec port? Did somebody make a small port rec port? Pool maintenance. No, I didn't get in the pool. I did splash myself a lot though. Yeah, this pool water was very, very hot. Because what I've done a lot in the past is when I go run, which I did go run today, and when I go run, jumping in the pool at the end is really, really nice because it's, if it's 95 outside and you're out running hills, you get pretty hot, and then jumping in the pool is really nice. You think a turbo run by electric motor instead of off an exhaust would be possible? The problem with the electric motor driving anything, whether it's a turbo or a supercharger, is that the power required to make that happen. You're not just spinning a little impeller and making it easy. You're having to process that amount of airflow. So if you're spinning something that has 1,000 horsepower worth of airflow, like to give you an idea, I don't know what the turbo would be. It certainly would be less, but the turbo has to have heat energy also going to the turbo to make it work. So it has to have load, it has to have heat energy, and then it can create boost. On a supercharger, if you're driving a supercharger with like an electric motor, some of these superchargers can be 100, 200, even 300 horsepower required to just drive the supercharger. So if you've ever seen a 300 horsepower motor, or the other thing that you could do, and people have pointed out, you can make the motor smaller, and then you can dramatically increase the supply voltage or the amperage to the motor. But again, that's all complex, and that's why it's not easily done. Mark, thank you very much. Small chamber rec port made for a 5.7 LS1. So who did those? Who made those? That's not a factory thing, but I have a 91 464 valve motor. Is it worth saving for a project? I find a newer one. I would get a PI motor because a 91 is not a PI motor; it's a non-PI, and it's makes less power. Cooler in Southern California than Northern California is rare. Yeah, except that you guys just had a big storm down there. Always wanted to route AC charge into the intake. Yeah, guys, do that. Saw the electric turbos on Cletus. Yep. Derek, E85 will be a huge step up in power from from pump gas, and then methanol will be another step up above E85 if you want to do that. We run the blow off valve as close as we can to the throttle body because that's the start of that reverse pressure wave. As soon as you close the throttle blade, that's how you build that pressure. And I like having the blow off valve close so that it evacuates that pressure wave as quickly as possible. Richard, you're in the northern part, close to Washington. Close to Washington would be Oregon, not California. And no, I'm not that high up. I'm by Sacramento. He's talking a 4-valve 91 modular Ford. I thought he was talking about a 2-valve 91, which they made him in 91, but they did them in the full size cars though, not in a Mustang. Can only get 94 octane. How much boost can I run? I don't know. I don't know what that is because it's not just octane and boost. It's lots of other stuff. Do you have any way to choose a specific wastegate size? No, there's not a formula that I've seen for that. I just think that if you're going to have lots of exhaust flow and back pressure, you need a bigger wastegate. And I'm just doing it based on all the things that I've run and problems that we've had. We have more problems on the engine dyno than you normally have out on the street. One more minute, so we'll close our poll out at 65. Is low speed boost response more important than the top end? That Richard guy makes us choose stuff. We don't want to choose. We want all of that. Two valve 92s, one 50,000. 50,000 miles is pretty low for 92. It's a 4 valve 91 4.6. Okay. Citrus Heights, Roseville. Okay. Did anyone here do 85 with meth injection? You mean you with your water meth injection, you want to put E85 into it instead of methanol? Michael, you got a 99 Explorer 5 liter with a transmission for $300. Nice. Aaron, I don't have an answer to your AC thing. What's the benefit of having CO2 for the wastegate? Just so that you can pressurize it and you can have more dynamic range for it. So you can hold it closed. So I have an odd question. If you lower your stall speed below what the torque converter and your cam specs could have potentially had to the longevity of yours. I don't understand your question. Ever use Venturi tubes and exhaust? Are you talking about Panavac systems? Because that's what that is. When you do Panavac systems like that, the one downside to that is it throws a bunch of smoke out the exhaust. Yeah, we have run Panavac systems. And on that note, it's time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. I will be back tomorrow, but please go watch the video.